We have a brief PowerPoint to present to you. We looked through, and it's rather straightforward, and each of you has a copy. Mr. Glazier, do you also have a copy?
No, apparently not.
1 second.
I'm used to being a stepchild. It's okay. They found one. Thanks. Now I have two on the left hand.
You get her a card?
I didn't say that.
I'm over here.
Okay, so we looked first at the accomplishments of each of the bureaus, etc. And as I mentioned, we do not have Lights in the Parkway nor special events. So 2018, looking at the Parks Bureau, we felt that top of the list here is opening Cedar Beach Pool. Since the public is so interested and love the pool, etc., and it's been shut down for 3 years, we thought we'd mention that first. It's also a revenue stream for the city. Secondly, we completed renovations at two city-owned rental properties, both located in Trexler Park, and I give you the addresses: 250 Springhouse and 200 Springhouse Road. Once again, they are revenue enhancers for the city, revenue streams for the city. Thirdly, again, because of interest from the public, we opened the Dixon Street Dog Park. It is not a revenue generator at this point because it is free to residents of Allentown. We have over 200 registered users, so just for a soft opening, necessarily not a big celebration, 200 people already. Turning to public space improvements, we've completed some stone masonry repairs, walking bridge at Cedar Creek Parkway, and the spring near the Trexler Cabin over in Trexler Park. Andre Reed, we installed a new swing set, and if you move to the next page, we continued again an issue that's very important to members of the public was Valania Park. So playground equipment has been ordered and we've done community outreach. Next, from accomplishments, we categorize trails and skate parks. So the Jordan Park Skate Park, we are in the process of doing design and construction documents. Jordan Creek Greenway Trail, same, design and construction documents are in process. Auburn Cross Trails, again, major interest from the public. That is also, design is in progress. And we're also working on Keck State Park. For that one, we do have a grant that is from the Iron Pigs, which we gratefully acknowledge. And we are in the process now of doing community outreach to identify organizations who wish to participate, because it's a do-it-your-own kind of activity. And so we're working with public and identifying individuals and organizations. Accomplishments from the Allentown Municipal Golf Course. We've implemented a player reward program, which begets that we've booked more than 3,000 tournament, outing, and charity events over 2018, and they've scheduled more than 450 weekday league players. Turning to an environmental initiative, the golf course has joined the Monarchs in the Rough initiative, which is creating butterfly habitats. Course improvements, the driving range, and I think many of you all know, I know a lot of the golf people who play golf have already seen this, installed the automated ball machine and lights. There's a pavilion now there for public use. The golf course is in discussions in trying to develop a master plan for the course. And another environmental initiative is the Audubon Sanctuary Program, which is a cooperative agreement and an effort between the U.S. Golf Association and Audubon International, which promotes ecologically sound land management and conservation of natural resources. We also have one of the golf course, in line with all the Audubon activities, for example, one of our golf course employees, Chris Reverie. He is on the board of the Golf Course Superintendents Association of America. So it's a very prestigious professional organization. And it's through his auspices that some of these environmental initiatives are now being brought forward. Turning to the Recreation Bureau, again, Cedar Beach Pool. So it reopened to the public, implemented resident, non-resident pricing structures, and it achieved record patron counts and revenue during 2018, especially given the fact that it was closed for 3 years. The basketball program, we've brought that in vis-a-vis girls. We've expanded the leagues and Queen of the Court program, which has been quite successful, in fact. And the little picture you see in the right-hand corner, it is of the Queen of the Court participants. For the boys, we standardized winter and summer league offerings, and overall, we conducted concussion awareness training in cooperation with the Allentown Health Bureau for athletes, parents, and coaches. So again, showing cooperative relationship with other departments, other bureaus within the city structure. Summer playground program, we expanded partnership activities, once again, reaching out into other organizations within the city, the Allentown Police Department, recycling and health bureaus, and Red Robin is also there as a public participant. Movies in the Park, we added 2 new locations, both on the east side, so expanding our movie offerings over to East Side Memorial Little League as well as Overlook Park. And in an effort to promote more, good citizenship, good sportsmanship, we've installed good sportsmanship signage at the basketball courts. And as it stated, we presented Rough Seas or Smooth Sailing, a guide to running youth sports leagues at annual Pennsylvania Recreation and Parks Society conference. So we've highlighted those as particularly of primary interest to the public. A lot of those items have been brought forward at various city council meetings or at the Board of Recreation meetings as well. And so thinking those were most of interest, we highlighted those for the 2018 accomplishments. Turning to 2019 goals, same breakdown. We begin with the Parks Bureau. We need pool repairs. Mac Pool is number 1 on our list, quite frankly, because it needs a new roof, but there are various repairs that need to be done over at the pool. Irving Pool, renovations there as well, and I think many people are aware of Irving Pool activities. Masonry structural repairs. Lehigh Parkway, a large area for works progress administration activities. And so we're targeting the staircase. So that's the entranceway from 15th/Lehigh Street coming into the main park entrance. Trexler Park, the bridges. So one in particular would be over by General Trexler's cabin. It's the base portions of those bridges which require the most extensive masonry work. Malcolm Gross Rose Gardens, targeting the gazebo. The main gazebo needs a new roof. There's stonework that needs to be done there as well. It needs to be painted, and so it almost needs a new makeover, quite frankly. We're looking at Bogart's Covered Bridge. In this particular case, it's the abutments going into the bridge. So as you, for example, arrive from the parking lot by the credit union and you walk towards the bridge, you will notice on the east side that there has been some stonework renovations going on. So that's going to continue. We're bringing in historic people who are more familiar with historic masonry requirements. Signage. As you know, not all of our parks have signage, and so we're going to try to hit this up piecemeal, quite frankly. But the Malcolm Gross Rose Garden used to have a sign at the entranceway off of Parkway Boulevard. That was removed because we're doing an effort, obviously, to have consistent signage through the parks. So we've targeted the Rose Garden, Percy Rue, South Street Park, Ithaca Play Lot, Walden Terrace, And quite surprisingly, Parks and Recreation Office does not have a sign. So we felt it would be very nice if our own department had a sign so when people from the public come in, they know they are indeed at the Parks and Rec office. The golf course. So we're looking at some improvements there as well. So upgrading the irrigation and aerification system, and you may hear more about that a little bit later on. And also their intent is to pave the remaining cart path. In order to meet MS4 stormwater compliance requirements, installing a chemical storage building and various other amenities, but we need a storage building. Improve overall the agronomic health and playability of the course. Evaluate the overall course operations, and this is several-fold. This is also how to improve marketing. So it's not all basic, lots of additional expenditures, but it's really improving our face to the public and letting the public know what the golf course entails and things like that. And there is more. And then overall, the golf course would definitely like to exceed customer expectations. Turning to the Recreation Bureau, a number of items here. Their primary intent is they need to be more effective in recruiting recreational seasonal employees. And that has cropped up on numerous occasions, like not having enough lifeguards this year. Therefore, we need to do a better job in moving forward in recruiting earlier, expanding our reach, etc. But it includes the individuals we've listed, cashiers, playground instructors as well, lifeguards, pool managers, supervisors. Second, convert the aquatics manager to a full-time position. As you know, we already have a specific line item in there for aquatics. In this particular case, where additional responsibilities include recruitment and training of staff, also expanding the programs that are being offered. Overall, increasing programming that's available through the Recreation Bureau, could be aquatics and youth sports programming in general. And then lastly, evaluate the recreation fees to be more competitive with surrounding municipalities. And what I did is I also gave you I gave council members 2 additional pages which are current photos taken today, in fact, so that you would know and recognize your parks employees, which I'm sure you all know them. You see them in the parks. We have a wonderful park system and they're constantly busy. So the first photo is, or one of the photos is of all the parks employees and the Parks and Recreation side. And then the second photo is of the staff at the golf course. And overall, that concludes my remarks as far as 2018 and 2019. As we go, and I'll open the floor up for questions. I'll do that first.
All right, thank you very much. Go ahead. I have
Okay.
a question.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. I have a few questions. Okay, one of the questions is, you mentioned about having masonry work. There's a lot of things that needs to be fixed. So what I was thinking, is it possible to be able to find out what is it that we need in the city? Like to do an inventory of what needs to be fixed when it comes to masonry work, and maybe find out if it's cost effective to hire someone full-time. I know that it's very difficult to find one in the area, because we did mention the last time that no one wants to do this kind of work. But I was even thinking about contacting CareerLink, maybe finding a grant, maybe bringing it back, maybe colleges, high school students would like to learn, the art of doing literary work. And I think that would be something good to find out, you know.
Thank you very much. I do believe there is extensive work, of stonemasonry work in particular. As far as all the Works Progress Administration structures, they are significant throughout the park system. And I have asked an individual from the public who a number of years ago had created a WPA committee to actually sit down and to promote to the city, to the Parks Department, about being more proactive in fixing, repairing, restoring, renovating the WPA Stoneworks projects. Some has been done, but there is a lot that still needs to be done. A full-time mason would be wonderful if that was a possibility. I would certainly promote that and support it 100% because we could employ a person full-time.
An apprenticeship program, perhaps.
And have others learn from that particular individual as well. That's also a possibility. At the moment, we're looking at, I've approached this person from the public to see if he could reconvene the individuals who expressed interest in the WPA Stoneworks projects around the city. He's in the process of doing that, and mostly to come up and create an inventory of the various WPA projects that exist.
Another question that I have, you mentioned about the pavilion. First of all, let's talk about, give me a second. Magpul roof, are you planning to fix this in home, or are you planning to do an RFP? Are you planning to, vet it out? What are your plans when it comes to this?
So currently, it's out to bid twice, and both times it came back way over budget. So we're working through purchasing at this time for different avenues to find different contractors to get some better pricing. I'm actually meeting with the contractor tomorrow at 10 a.m. to discuss this with our current option, and if this current option to add a truss frame roof to the building doesn't work, we may go back to a flat roof. But our goal is to fix the roof in 2019 before the season opens. And it will be done by an outside contractor.
Okay. You also mentioned about the pay-free, you're planning to carve the path. Which path are we talking about, and also how much? And I'm talking about the municipal golf course. Because you didn't went into details with that.
Yeah, there's some paths that can be finished on the golf course, on some of the holes that we do not have paths to keep the course open, and be able to generate some revenue on some of the more wet days. At this point, we're going to hopefully use a grader from the street department to be able to use some of the millings that in the past that we've accumulated and just lay those down. That's going to be done all in-house. It's not going to be done outside, so it shouldn't cost anything other than us borrowing the equipment and our labor.
Okay.
And just so everyone understands, maybe there's something, the millings are basically what the streets department grinds off of old streets. It's basically waste that they reuse to create asphalt. Yeah, it's basically recycling blacktop.
And also, the Malcolm Groves Rose Garden, the gazebos, how many are we talking about? You said that it needs to be fixed.
2.
In-home?
I don't think all of it will be done in-house.
It's simply, we'll do as much as we can in-house, and then we'll contract out probably just the stonework at the base and the stonework. But the actual painting and roof work, things like that, we'll do in-house if possible.
Okay. Can you tell me about the sanctuary program briefly?
What was the question?
The sanctuary program, the ongoing environmental initiative.
1 second.
It's under the Allentown Municipal Golf Course and the accomplishment. the International Promoting Ecologically Sound Land Management.
Yes, so the golf course is undergoing basically improvements to make sure that we are utilizing our resources in the best manner possible, that we are environmentally sound as much as we can be. We're looking at creating habitats for declining species such as the monarch butterfly, such as the honeybee that's been overtaken by the Barrera mite. So we're looking at installing some beehives. We're putting in pollinator gardens. We're looking at areas with our water use. How much water we're using? Are we using it efficiently? Is it being leached out into our dry creeks and things like that? Basically trying to be as environmentally sound as possible at the golf course, reducing the carbon footprint that we have out there, reducing the pesticides, reducing the fertilizers, really trying to be as green as possible.
So that means that it will not be like of any cost to us, right?
What's that?
It will not be of any cost to us. It will be, we will be using less chemicals, right?
There's no, yes, there's no additional cost. All the improvements to the golf course are done in-house out of our own operating budgets. The only things that we need to look at that we mentioned in the PowerPoint are the chemical storage building for the facility, and we do need a MS4 compliant wash pad to wash equipment at the golf course as well.
Thank you. And my last question, what about the machine that we install at the golf course? How is that going?
Golf ball machine?
Yes.
It does very well, actually. We reduced the labor more than 50% this year, probably gonna go to 75% next year. People are very happy with it. It's self-serve. The lights are on automatic, so we save a lot of power. We don't leave the lights on any day or night. They automatically turn on, they automatically turn off. People can use it anytime they want.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Elchar. Very good presentation, as I would expect no less from you. Just a couple of quick questions from your PowerPoint, and then I had a couple of questions from the budget book.
Okay.
The improvements we're talking about making in 2019 to the golf course, did we, how can I say, have a positive revenue in 2018 to offset those costs? Or is it too early to determine that?
First, I think it's a bit early to determine that. On the
Okay.
other hand, I know one of the questions we had received was, like, for example, course improvements, the upgrade of the irrigation and aerification system. And so it's not in the municipal golf course budget necessarily, but it's something that is needed. And you'll hear later, because it's something that can be used both between the Parks Office, Parks Bureau, as well as the golf course. And so we're actually going to be sharing equipment. If it's approved, we share the equipment. It's in the Parks and Rec budget.
Okay.
I could follow up with that as well. I think November's still here in December, a couple of days, but for the 2019 budget, there'll be more revenue projected than actual expenditures.
Okay.
It'll be flat, it'll be positive flat.
Okay. And under the PowerPoint, 2019 goals, Recreation Bureau. You had requested to convert the aquatics manager to a full-time position. What would be the difference in the salary as opposed to the part-time?
It switches from an hourly, roughly a $14 an hour position over about 3 to 3.5 months to a salaried beginning step $39,500 position. But it is commensurate with year-round programming and opportunities, not truncated to 3 months.
Okay, so it's not just for the, say, spring and summer?
No, it's not.
Okay, all right. Okay, and then the budget book. I'm new to this, so that's why I asked a couple of these questions. And they kind of somewhat got answered with the PowerPoint, but I just want to double check. On page 105, I'm in the short book.
The short book. Okay.
I have a question on page 105. under the first section, under the pool maintenance call-outs. You're projecting $17,000 for that? What kind of call-outs would we be talking about that would cause that amount of money to occur?
So our pool staff during the summer months are on 7 days a week when the pools are open. They get called out for, some weeks it's multiple times in the evening, multiple times a day on Saturday and Sundays. You never know what happens with the pools. So that number may be a bit on the higher side. We just don't know what the season's gonna bring us.
Okay.
And when there's an issue, it's health related with swimmers and things like that, they respond immediately. So it varies with the issue, and how much time we're out.
Okay, what was it in 2018? Now, obviously, the pools weren't open as much, but,
I believe it was the same. Our overall premium pay has not changed. It was $90,000 in 2018, and it was $90,000 in 2019. Again, this is the cumulative total of everything we do on overtime.
Okay.
We try to guesstimate the best we can with each line, but one feeds into the other based on the issues we're dealing with.
okay. All right, the next page, 106. The top one, account 001-16 printing. It's $1,000, roughly $1,000 difference from last year. Why such an increase? Or why are you projecting such an increase?
That is for our continuation of our park signage plan that is on the slides, our wayfinding and just our signage program that we continue to use, we're using and putting up in all our park systems, rule signs, main entrance signs, things like that.
Okay. And then at the bottom of 106, aquatic facilities repair items, the $8,000, is that what you're referring to for the full roof and?
No, sir.
Okay, what is that for?
That is for general repairs. So I believe it was last year, we took the, this line 54 budget and put it into the park maintenance because that's where we operate out of, the maintenance staff. So that goes for repairs to pumps, filters, motors, electrical, anything that has to do with the pool itself.
Okay, are any of the items that we had in Cedar Pool, are there any of those under warranty since it's so new?
Absolutely.
Okay. And at the bottom, 107, the zero-turn mower, is that for a new one, or is that a cost basically estimating repairs for something we already have?
That is a new unit that would take an 18-year-old unit out of service.
Okay. And 108, just curious of why there's no amounts under the 219 projected budget. They're all zeros.
Correct, because that has been moved. Special events is now in DCD.
Oh, I'm sorry, you did say that. My mistake.
And the same thing with lights in the parkway.
109, yep, that was my next one. 110, the bottom, oh, they're under the signage. I'm assuming these are for all the new signs you mentioned in the PowerPoint. They're not signs from last year that you're
So, yeah,
redoing.
you're now into the recreation budget, and they also have
Yes.
signage that is required for, and they can speak with some of their programming and things they do. For example, movies in the park and things like that, summer playground program, that comes out of that budget.
Okay, yeah, but they're not signs that are already there.
Correct.
Okay. And 111, the mileage reimbursement there at the top for 7,000, what's that for? No, mileage reimbursement.
No, printing is 7,000, so you're missing, printing is 7,000,
Oh,
mileage
okay.
reimbursement
Yes, it goes with
All
one.
right.
is 100.
All right, thank you. Let's see, I'm almost done, I promise. 114, you have, last year projected for 655, and this year only 2,500. Why such a reduction if you're planning the pools to be open longer?
That's the premium pay.
Premium, oh, I'm sorry.
What was transferred out of here was this had two line items. One was for police overtime, the other is for the lifeguarding staff for additional programming and events. The police overtime line item was switched out of this budget to elsewhere.
Okay, and 115, what is, you have the expenditures here of 23.7, what do you project the revenue, or possibly the revenue to be for that?
Can you ask the question again?
Yeah, the concession stand, that type of thing, what are you projecting the revenue to be for that kind of stuff? You're spending 12,500, what are you expecting to get back from that?
For 2017, for Cedar Beach Pool alone, the revenue that came in from concession sales based on our receipts was roughly $22,000 to $23,000.
It's almost double. Okay, good. All right, that's all I have, thanks.
For one location, we do have another facility at Jordan Pool, which was not open as often this year, which only made about 1,500. And as Rick mentioned about the Mac Pool roof, there is facilities there to continue our concessions operation.
So we're making roughly 75%. Okay, that's fair enough.
Thank you, Mr. Zupa. We'll go to the other side here. Ms. Hoffman.
Few questions. First of all, great picture,
Thank you.
and thank you, you guys are really doing a good job.
Thank you, thank you.
For years, you've been doing a good job. How many, do you think all the pools will be open this year? Do you think how many pools do you expect to be open this year?
We're hoping unanimous.
Recognize.
All four?
That's what we shoot.
Yeah.
Write it down.
All four. You gonna sign this, Mayor? All four, all right. Also, about the golf course, it took a beating this year, didn't it, because of all that rain?
Flooding.
How is the golf course looking now, since, and you had to do a lot of work in that, didn't you?
Yeah, the course is really pretty great. Chris has been staffed doing a tremendous job to helping out with drainage when we do get flooded, getting rid of the standing water and reclaiming the lost turf. Of course, couldn't look better. We're constantly getting customers coming in and telling us that they played other courses and were far and above beyond the condition better than others. We've had probably 45 inches around.
Yeah, the whole Parks and Rec department really took a beating this year. We had 49 inches of rain year to date. Comparatively to last year, that's 19 inches above what it was. So we've gotten a lot of rain. Just looking at Friday night again, before midnight, we had 4 inches of rain. So we had another major rain event with a lot of flooding. We still have a lot of areas that are underwater. Lehigh Parkway, pools, everything with rain events this year, with the ground table being so saturated. We're looking at rain events that produce a half inch of rain will cause flooding, and we're getting events that are giving us 4 inches of rain in a very short amount of time. So the flooding this year has been much worse than before. We've also seen an increase in the stormwater runoff onto our property, coming up from Whitehall. So we do have to address that with the stormwater department and kind of look at what's going on there. But water this year has been a major impact on the entire department.
I noticed when I drive by that, so we had that rain on Friday, but people were still, so the course is still looking good, because when I go by, there's people playing golf, so the golf course is still pretty good shape.
It's very.
I think Jeff said they were one of the only courses open on Saturday, last Saturday morning.
Really?
We were able to open.
We put 164 players up.
I just have one other question. Could you explain this building we're gonna build, the chemical storage? Where do we have our chemicals now? Where do we store them?
So we're not going to build it. It's something that we would purchase. So it's a self-contained building, meaning that anything inside that building, if there was a leak, a fire, it's all contained within there. The chemicals would break in the container, they would then go beneath the building into a sump that could be sucked out and maintained. Currently, we just have an old shed that is not compliant. At this point in time, if there was a fire at the facility, the fire department would have to come out and just watch our barn burn down, because we can't treat it with water due to the fact that chemicals are stored there.
It's been like this for years.
Yes.
I'm all for the building then.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. Hendricks? Nothing. All right, Mr. Green?
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a couple of questions. Thank you. Just a couple of questions. By the way, great presentation, and thank you all the employees, all the staff. You look better in person than the know you're not wearing your uniform, that's why. Like you are in the pictures. So anyway, page 2. Or page 1, I guess. Or the PowerPoint presentation. Do you have, I was trying to find it in the booklet, but I wasn't sure where it is. What's the actual, do you have an idea of what's the actual revenue for the total revenue for the pools?
Are you specific or overall?
Overall.
Overall, so this year we are at about
I know you
approximately.
can make much money in the Cedar Beach pool,
Well,
but
actually, the total revenue for 2018 was $175,000, and Cedar Beach Pool accounted for $116,500 of it.
oh, it's very good.
The previous highest total was 2014 for Cedar Beach Pool at $87,000 pre-renovation.
Where that goes, to the general fund, what's that, general fund? Okay. Very good, thank you. Another. Okay. Do you, this is for Jeff, Mr. Wombley, you said that the, automated golf ball machine, are actually working well. Do you see that there is, do you expect to be an increase, in revenue from that, since you don't really have somebody there all the time? So you have like.
The savings are gonna be with employment, just a little lower wages, so you don't have to put somebody there
Correct.
as much as we used to be able, we used to have to do that.
You
Now,
have,
we're going to change something next year, because a lot of people coming in here doing the self-serve hours, if they don't have equipment, say they want to start to learn how to play golf, we're going to put equipment out there to let people use as they need. I'm gonna put some barrels of clubs out there just to keep them out there, and it should be, they should be okay, because there's security cameras.
yeah. Do you have any expected calculation on how much you think you'll make out of it now?
As far as the revenue for the driving revenue, it should stay pretty stagnant as far as the revenue for the range. We have a lot of ideas that we're going to push forward next year because we allow player cards, we can use, we can sell cards at any day of the night, whether they can use a bucket of balls or a day, or they can have balls just on Mondays, but we can sell cards. Right now, we're selling cards for $80 and you get $100 in golf balls. But from there, what we're going to end up doing is putting in other options for people so they can join the range and create some more revenue on off hours.
So you use some of the, sounds like you use some of the revenue, surplus of revenue to invest back into it, or you already have those equipment that you.
Yeah, all the equipment I need for the cards, yeah, we have them all.
Oh, okay, so that would be extra revenue that you're gonna be making. Okay. We talked about the golf master plan discussion that is in process. When are you expecting to have that completed?
As far as which part of your master plan?
I don't know,
As
it
far
just,
as
I mean,
the golf course itself,
you just say golf course
Yeah,
master
so
plan.
we're currently doing an assessment of the golf course as, the golf course was renovated in '98, for the 2000, opening. So currently, we're at a 20-year mark for aging of, the piping out there as far as irrigation, for greens, for tees, for sand traps, for example. So the life of an average sand trap is anywhere from 10 to 15 years if it's installed with proper drainage, proper bunker blanket, things like that. When the renovation was done, those were not included in that. So when we have major rain events like we have this year, every time we get that rain event, we have to go out and spend, 40 or 50 hours trying to put sand back up into these bunker faces, trying to get it back out, pumping the water back out. So it's very inefficient, it's very, labor intensive, and it's requiring us to put more sand back into these bunkers each year. So if we're able to solve that, we would not be spending the labor to do that, we would not be having to purchase more sand each year to put back into the bunkers, and they would be more self-sufficient. we're also identifying the trees on the golf course. So, when the course was renovated, a lot of smaller trees were put in because the trees were small, so they wanted to have, obstacles out there for the golfers. Well, 20 years later, these trees have grown. And when you have a property that has, irrigation and fertilizer, pine tree that you may look at and think is 75 years old is actually only 15 or 20 years old just because of its rapid growth. So we're identifying areas of trees that should be removed. We're looking at playability and opening the golf course up. We're looking at pace of play, how we can improve that. We're looking at overall player satisfaction, how they feel about the golf course, how quickly they can get around the golf course. If we can add shorter tees, making it more player friendly, looking at our different, native areas, in-play areas, fairway expansions. So we're really looking at top to bottom, kind of where the course is with its aging and how we can continue to move forward with a systematic plan of replacing and
Just because,
improving.
just sake of time, I think you're doing a lot of things, but, well, one thing I would suggest is, hole 13, those big pine trees over there, if you can cut them down.
They're on the list. They're on the list.
Kind of come around there, and when I play with Michael, sometimes it's not able to get him over the tree. No, seriously, I was looking more to find out when, we've been doing a lot of renovations, and the golf course was really good, although you were saying that it was 20 years ago. It was looking really good, and probably some of the renovations you specifically were talking about is just the sand bunkers primarily. Because you're cutting trees as well as you're going through. And I'm just thinking, like, when are you, if you have a master plan, when is that master plan gonna be completed? When you don't have a master plan?
It all depends on the revenue and how much money we're able to get.
I'm a little confused.
I think the goal is to create the master
Create
plan
one.
this year.
Oh, okay.
From the time you drive your car into the course until the time you leave the course, everything on that course, whether it be the restaurant, the pro shop, everything has to do with that golf course, we want to evaluate and take a look at and see how we can do it better.
Okay, so
That's what
that's,
we're trying to do.
you're in discussion of creating.
That's correct.
Okay,
That would be a
okay.
2019 goal.
I thought that you were in the process of. Okay. Thank you, good information. I think I may have early just one more question in regards to your PowerPoint presentation, and that is, in page, well, you don't have a number, but, the 2018 Accomplishment Recreation Bureau session, and you talked about some of the youth, is that what it is? So yeah, some of the youth programs that you have. And I'm wondering if you have anything planned for some of the teenagers. You have a lot of things for the younger population here. If you have anything for the teenagers, the one that are like after school, and people keep telling me that they're getting into trouble after school and they need a little bit more support from the city because those are the ones that are at the most of chances of getting into gangs and things like that. Yeah, risk, exactly. So do you have any plans for them, for those, that population there?
We're currently working with various groups on this. This is a piece in a focus group of the Allentown Vision 2030 Comprehensive Plan. A couple of weeks ago, we did have a focus group specific to youth activities. And what's very nice to see is the variety of organizations that were there. There were over 30 represented. And we are working with that list of attendants to figure out how we can best serve that population. A couple of them, just to rattle off the top of my head, we're working with the Allentown Citywide Initiative for Youth to reach out on various things. We've also had discussions with a group called Living the Dream that does Friday and Saturday evening activities on the east side of Allentown for the teenage population. So it is an area we do address and we are continuing to move forward. That can be a challenge and we are doing so for sure.
Great, that sounds good. Give us a breath, yes. And budget book, I just have one question. Most of them were covered very well, and I'm looking at page when I look at page, 174. Yeah, the big book. The budget book. 174. No, it's not. Wrong page. That's okay. When you get into it, you know, always try to lose the computer.
I'm the one who hurt you so loud.
I look at my, page, yeah, and on page 174, and I'm looking at the, and this may be for Mr. Hart, so, the insurance, I did notice that the insurance we're paying in 2017, 237,267, and now we're actually looking at, 972,509. That's a huge amount. And from last year to this year, we're looking at over 100,000, 130,000 increase.
You are looking at the 237 to the 309 and the pension cost, so that's a $72,000 increase in pension. And then the insurance increase goes from 847 to 972.
Correct.
Yes. That is factored in as we have a increase in per FTE in the budget for insurance that is in the neighborhood of, I believe, per person it's 11%, and there are a few more positions in addition to that that have been moved over from the Trexler Fund into the general fund this year. So you have more positions to begin with, and then you have the higher cost of insurance per employee that is factoring into why it goes from 847 to 972.
Okay, and so that, yeah. We'll look into that later. I just put one last question, and that was on the total ground, on the same page actually, the total ground maintenance went from over $400,000 from last year to this year. And, you know, in overall, sounds like a.
I think that's from line 16 up, so like Brent was saying, we had to move some employees from Trexler over to general fund. So if you would take all the costs from permanent wages to insurance costs, I believe that's where you're gonna come up with very close to your 420. Because below that, those numbers haven't changed much at all.
Correct.
If they probably went down.
Yeah, except for the insurance and
So
the
from
permanent
16
wages.
up to 2 is where your number 420 basically comes from.
Yeah. Why did-
If I may provide some clarity,
Why were they removed from the Trexler?
I'd be glad to answer that question. The agreement that is on the cusp of being final with the Orphans Court in Lehigh County Court of Common Pleas with the Trexler Trust as far as an ongoing arrangement of the use of the Trexler Trust monies. In the last 2 years, we had used the allocation from Trexler almost entirely for operating expenses. And we also had a couple of very good years in terms of the investment income that returned from the Trexler Trust, and so we were able to have a couple of rather sizable years of operational expenses that we could fund out of Trexler to reduce the impact on the general fund. The new arrangement with Trexler is such that there will be a mandatory portion of the trust monies that are used for capital improvements in the park system. In 2019, that portion becomes 10% of the total allocation, and over time, it will eventually increase to 30% of the overall allocation. So we're also not expecting that in 2019, there will be as much forthcoming in investment income from the Trexler Trust as there was in 2018, because the stock market has not done as well, or the investments have not had as big a boon as they had the previous year. So first of all, we only budgeted, as opposed to $2 million a year ago, we only budgeted $1.8 million this year for the Tressler Fund. And then out of that, $180,000 of that is dedicated to capital expenses. So the operational impact effectively goes down from $2 million to $1.6 million. And since we had positions in there that were drawing upon that $2 million, we needed to shift them back into the general fund, since there was not going to be sufficient revenue coming from the trust to be able to pay for those positions. And so we had a feeling that that might be coming as a result of less revenue coming in and also the new agreement coming in. And so that is why this shift is happening this year, and I expect it will be holding in a pretty similar fashion at near this level in the coming years.
Okay, thank you very much.
Just a quick note on that. We've now worked with the Trexler Trust for over 3 to 4 months. And how this all began is they were very unhappy with the way the city was spending their money. And there was a strained relationship, I would say. We believe we're back on a very good relationship with the Trexler Trust now, now that we've negotiated. And I want to thank the Trexler Trust, because they originally wanted the 30% into capital immediately. We educated them that they understand where our financial situation is, and that's why they gave us a couple of years to work up to that.
And just to follow up, and Joe has been very involved with that, we are now following, excuse me, we are now following the Trexler Trust agreement the way it should have been followed all along.
I'll try not to read into that, but
What's that?
I'll try not to read into that, but I think I know the answer as to why.
And we have a very good relationship with Janet Gross, Janet Roth and Gross, now Gross, I'm failing with something. With Janet Roth, obviously from the Trexler Trust and the board of directors. And we probably had about 6 meetings over the last couple months. Yeah, it's
Thank you.
definitely
Good explanation.
better.
Understand.
I don't have any further questions right now. I may have some later on as we move forward on the process, but that's all for me. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, Mr. President, thank you. Question I have, having grown up in the city as I did as a child, I swam in Fountain Pool, and there were many WPA projects down in that area, and also played in the Lehigh Parkway quite a bit. My question is, are we using the same contractor now to work on those projects, the various projects, what we're doing?
So of course, everything goes out to bid. We have been fortunate enough to find two good contractors that we worked with for the last 5 years on various projects. The person who did the work at the Lehigh Parkway wall when it collapsed, to do all the pointing there, is Penn Mountain Stone. They received the bid. They also just received the bid, the winning bid total for Trexler Park repairs. So he's a very qualified person. And there's another person, Dietrich Stonemason, who's done a lot of work for us, who's also very qualified. But those are just about the only 2 people we get, local people that are bidding on it. I say local, they're not in Allentown, but they're in the Lehigh County area. So, and they're very good at what they do.
I think it's important that we should look at a way to not only restore, but preserve what we do have there. And I know you're working on an audit, and that's something that I think to look forward to. And at some point, maybe what we should be looking at is hiring somebody for maybe 9 months out of the year. Once we get that full audit, to do a total review, the audit, and then what needs to be done, and I'll see if we can't find.
Yeah, I'd like to say that, I mean, we've done some, we had an engineer come in and look at, Fountain Park and Irving Park, who worked there. And there's extensive damage to those areas that need work. And we're talking $300,000-$400,000 at Fountain Park alone. There's a huge crack in the wall, significant monies. So the point I'd like to make is a full-time employee for the Parks Department would be fantastic if it was possible to help with maintenance on smaller issues before they become large issues. And that's what we struggle with, is the maintenance aspect of this, and just keeping someone in-house. So I think it would be a great addition to our staff if we could do that. A full-time mason, I think would be an amazing addition to our staff.
Well, once we get that audit.
We already have an audit. I'd be happy to pass along.
Yeah, that's something to look at going forward, and be anxious to hear about that. But thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
Mr. President, can I just ask one more question?
Yes.
Thank you. What is, I'm actually failed to look at page 186. And 186. And on the big budget book. The big book. Which kind of drove me, because I had this question before, and I kind of, it's permanent wages and some of the temporary wages seem to be highly increased. And I'm not sure, I was looking in the detail book to find some explanation, which I didn't.
You're addressing swimming pools.
I thought it was.
You're in the swimming pools area.
Yeah, the swimming pool, yeah.
Parks and Rec.
So, was that, what was that for?
That's the aquatics program.
Okay, just the lifeguards and things.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There's a lot of money there.
But we're doing a lot of things.
How much you said we make out of that pool?
This past year was $175,000.
175? And it looks like,
And I understand that 175, not all these pools were open.
Yeah.
Because they did not have enough lifeguards to open all pools all the time.
To answer that question, Cedar Beach Pool typically is an average of 85 days a year. This year it was only open for 60. Irving Pool is an average over the past 5 years, 64 days. It was open for 10. Jordan Pool is an average of 82 days. This year it was only 52. And Mac Pool average of 73, and this year was only 36. In addition to that line item that you're referencing, that is also expansion of programming to be 365 days a year, not just the summer months.
okay, so we think, because we went, in 2017, 2016, it was like in the 200,000s, and then 2018, 200,000, and I went to 690,000, 691,000. And it's almost more than double.
Can you
explain how old the wage?
The additional piece of this is that the recreational seasonal employee pay scale has not been touched since 2007. I, as a lifeguard in 2004, was making what some of our second-year lifeguards make today. The challenge, one piece of the challenge of finding employees that we had in 2018 was the competitive wage, not to other lifeguard jobs, to the labor market as a whole. When a Costco cashier can make $14 an hour, and we're paying a lifeguard $8.75 to start, and I can tell you at Cedar Beach Pool, they dealt with over 12 emergencies, ranging from diabetic attacks, seizures, spinal injuries, to an unresponsive drowning 2-year-old. So that is part of this equation, is that we are looking to adjust these wages with inflation to be more competitive in the job market.
Ryan, can you explain what it takes to become a lifeguard, the certification process?
Sure, it's a 40-hour certification with a governing body such as the American Red Cross. The initial step in the process is a prerequisite swim of 300 yards, which doesn't sound like that long. It's 12 lengths of the pool. In addition, you have to do a timed brick retrieval from the deep end of the pool and tread water for 2 minutes. Part of our challenge this year in finding staff was we were not having applicants who were able to successfully complete that course. The projections and expansion of programming is to start at the younger levels with the Learn to Swim program, offer a variety of training opportunities to continue to be able to have a pipeline of employees for the foreseeable future. In addition to what Mr. Raymond is talking about, the average rate to take this class runs anywhere from $300 to $400 for the certification. So now you've got an employee, which we can show you the numbers on percentage of City of Allentown residents that are employees, ranges from 70 to 80% of our workforce. You're asking that individual to go out and spend $400, which also includes the mandatory background checks, prior to getting a paycheck for the summer at $8.75 now.
Yeah, and there's a little irony there in the title of the job. It's lifeguard, yet they're at the lowest end of our pay scale, and they're there to protect lives.
We understand that, Mr. Redmond. Nobody's questioning that. What are we gonna be what is the pay rate gonna be? Have we set that yet? I mean, because we obviously have it budgeted.
Absolutely. We are looking to start our lifeguard, our cash, specific to lifeguards, we were looking to start the first year guard at $12, second year guard at $13, and capping out on the 3-year pay scale at $14 an hour. Positions beyond that, as far as advancing the supervisory roles, would be higher than that as well.
How does that correlate with, let's say, Wellwater Kingdom?
That is more competitive than we have been. That's right in line with them. It's also in line with the other jobs, like I mentioned, Costco cashier, FedEx warehouse worker, who make $14.75. Other not as skilled professional jobs are making more. This puts us more competitive with them.
Okay. Has there been any thought given to possibly subsidizing the price of that course in this budget?
Yes.
Okay. Would it be for out-of-town residents? Would it be
Yes,
for
we're
anybody
looking at a different price for out-of-town residents, and we also have a different price for those. We don't want to offer it so subsidized that someone comes to us to get a certification and go work elsewhere, but we are catering to out-of-town residents to make this happen.
And I'm sure we would have some sort of clause in there that they have to work for us or
We are-
pay back the money.
We are working with our seasonal hiring process with our human resources department to work on this.
Okay.
How you're gonna build it.
Additionally, we realize that working with our main partner with the school district is the amount of aquatic education that goes on in phys ed is pretty non-existent. We have to start this from the ground up to get people to the level to be able to pass the class, continue that training to keep them effective, and then get them through the class, which will give us those employees every season.
Good long-range goal, but what are we doing for next summer?
We are working right now with the school district to, you give me the thumbs up, we're working with some classes in November and December. January, we're running this program. We are working with various groups. We work with both the Allen High School and Deer High School swim teams. We also have a large working relationship with the Parkland Aquatic Club. Craig Walls is still here, if he can raise his hand. As far as working with swimming athletes to get that pool, pun intended, of workers, but the number we need for the facilities we have, we need to go beyond that. So now we're looking beyond just the traditional means of aquatic athletes to all students.
Okay, thank you, and I think Ms. Moda, you have something in regards
Yes,
to.
I'm really happy that they're being proactive, you know. Another thing, the Red Cross, I met with them, and they're offering classes for free. So I think that you should take that under consideration to work with them. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Grady, you were done, and Mr.
No, actually, I just had a comment, you know, that we had to, in your department, with the recreation department in general, we got rid of or moved, I should say, more correctly, 2 departments or 2 licensed parkways and licensed the parkway and special events. And we still, budget still went up, like $800,000. So,
789,800.
yeah, exactly.
189,787.
So that's what I'm, you know, I'm looking at those kind of things, obviously. And, I looking at the book, it was supposed to be with explanation.
Well, Mr. Gready's thinking out loud. I have one question for the budget book, and this would probably be for Mr. Hartzell. We won't put you on the spot. You're what we do here. When you look at the pension versus the permanent wages, going back to 2016, 2017, and 2018, the correlation just,
What page?
I'm sorry, page 171 of the budget book, not the detailed book, the budget book. In 2016, we had 1.897 million, and the pension was 207. In 2017, we were actually down. We were down at 1.828, but the pension was up to 263.2. And then in 2018, we're at 1.95, which is a little bit higher. And our pension is almost within a couple $100. versus 2019. And we're up 83, almost 84.
I can answer that if you wish.
That's why I addressed it to you.
I appreciate it. Actuarially, our MMO calculations are updated biannually. And so the major changes to the budget in terms of pension costs are going to happen in even numbered years of the budget. And so the increase that you are seeing that is effective with, let me make sure I'm looking exactly in the right place.
Yeah, page 171.
Yeah, hang on.
170,
02 and 12. I'm sorry, 02 and 14.
No, it's okay. Hang on, I'm gonna get to it. Yeah, and the reason for the increase that you're going to see a little bit for 2019 is actually being driven more by the wages that are being brought over from the Trexler Fund, that we're seeing some of the increase that's coming over from that. Also affecting this is that there are differing valuations for those that are in PMRS as opposed to the police and fire units in the calculation of the pension costs. And the variations in PMRS are done on an annual basis. And so my expectation would be that between the 2017 and 2018 budgets, most of the staff that would be in Parks and Recreation, in fact, actually all of it, would be part of the Pennsylvania Municipal Retirement System. And there would not have been that big an increase between those 2 years in the allocation needed to cover the pension costs for those members of that system. There was a bump up in PMRS for 2019 that went up probably over $1,000 per person. For police and fire, you will see those numbers are going to remain pretty steady because there won't be much of a change in those numbers compared with last year.
And part of the bump up in the PMRS has to do with the fact that they increased their life expectancy table, so people are living longer, and they decreased their rate of return to 5%. So if you decrease the rate of return, then you have to make it up with your MMO.
Okay. Just seems like it was bouncing back and forth there a little bit. And not making a lot of sense.
And it does.
Okay. And one other question I have is on page 171, the budget book again, line 90, refunds for $3,680. I was always under the impression that if you got a refund, it was something you already paid, so I'm confused here.
Yes, in that instance, the revenue would have already been generated and credited to the general fund revenue account, and so that money would be in the door. What we then do is expend a refund, like if someone rents a pavilion at Parks, which is often like a $60 expense.
Right.
And something comes up before the actual event where they say, can't get there, we're not going to do this, we would like a refund of our money. The refunds are only balancing out what we already have showing up in the revenue. So if there's $3,600 that's showing as a refund amount, that's matching $3,600 that we've already taken in revenue that's showing in the general fund.
You're looking at 2017.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I was looking at 2017, but because the 2019 is a little hard to read.
2019, $2,500.
Right, 2,519. Okay, thank you very much. All right, you have one more quick question, and then we'll move into the.
Back to the swimming pool and lifeguards now. $175,000 was the total amount from the pool, $116,000 or something like that was from Cedar Beach. Now, if we have fully staffed with the lifeguards, let's say $12, $13 an hour, and all 4 pools are operating, barring a horrible summer, it looks like our revenue should really be up there, which will offset the price of the lifeguards. It's actually something we really need to have those lifeguards, because this is what the problem is this year. So with all 4 of them running, and we have a good season, we can have
The difference is the new pool is very attractive to people because of all the new features that it has. It's not the
It was the
traditional.
only one open too, basically.
Yeah.
It was basically the only one open.
Right.
And there was some here and there, but with all 4 of them operating, we should see some good revenue. And I agree with the.
Parks has explained the demographics. You're getting people from all over town that goes to.
And they're still on residents only for weekends at Cedar Beach, right?
We, I think, are gonna be speaking to that in our fee structure that
The
we
lady for your transport, just ahead.
Okay. Just had a thought. All right. I'm told to shut up now. Goodbye.
See what happens when she wakes up. Get ready, bro. All right, anything else from council on that budget review? Of course, the controller wants to talk about money here. Go, sir. Mr. Glazer.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll have a couple of questions. I apologize for not being able to get to these sooner, but the time frame was a little bit compressed. Congratulations on completing 250 Springhouse and 200 Springhouse. Yeah, does anybody have an idea what 250 Springhouse ended up costing at the end? I know that expenditures went into 2018.
Yeah, the total budget, Jeff, was approximately, about $17,000. Yeah, it was between $17,000 and $20,000.
For 200 or for 250?
250.
I note in the 19 budget that in general and civic, that fund is going to take over some of the financial responsibility for these structures. And I guess, let's see, there's 3 in Trexler Park, 2 in Lehigh Parkway, and then by the fish hatchery, there's 4 more. Can't forget the ones on Keystone Road.
There's 2 on Keystone Road as well.
Right, so that brings us to
There's
whatever.
4.
Do we envision just paying for materials out of that money with Parks providing the labor, or will some other arrangement be made there?
Parks is getting out of the home remodeling business. We won't be doing it anymore. I believe our building maintenance department was getting that over.
Okay, very good. We had mentioned the chemicals buildings. We use a tremendous amount of chemicals, not only at the golf course, but parks in general, and of course, the swimming pools as well. You know, I guess the swimming pools are their own thing, but you want to put one of those containment buildings at the golf course. Is there a need for another facility like that in the Parkway? Or wherever else you store?
Yes, there is. And they're very comparable to portable storage units at Kinney Skid. So it's not a huge building. It could be a 8 by 10 or whatever size, but they're portable units. But to answer your question, yes, there is one needed for the.
And we want to get one for, do you have a ballpark estimate of what they run?
The size out at the golf course is about 26,000.
And could someone direct us in the short budget book as to where that's coming from? Is there an account that will?
We don't have it budgeted for this year.
Okay, that's not budgeted for this year. Okay, very good. I have 4 pages of questions, so.
He's not gonna like that.
I'm sure you can call the parks
Yeah.
director into the office at any point in time.
Well, I'll rush through them. Here, let's just pretend that I have 2 pages and Courtney would have had 2 pages. This is as much for administration as for Parks Department. I noticed that, I'll direct you to the page. Roger, quite honestly, it's 16 points, so it's really not that much. On page 106, legal services. Yeah, it's a short book. It's Mr. Simple would say, the detail book. It would seem to me that one of the things the council has strived for over the last couple of years is transparency, and by distributing legal fees throughout the departments works contrary to that. You know, I think it would be better and certainly clearer to run all this at a risk. You're free to disagree. Council, you guys should weigh in at some point in the process. That's my first comment. If we drop down to the chemical line, which is Chem 66, which is on the next page, 107, we're budgeting $75,000 for pool chemicals. I realized that this was a little bit of a short season. And this year we spent about $25,000 on pool chemicals. In 2017, $30,000. In 16, $27,500. So understanding that we expect to be open longer, how do we more than double the budget?
I still don't think we have a true understanding of what we're gonna spend with the new facilities. We changed from tablets to liquid chlorine. I think there's still a lot that we don't know out there. 75 may not be the number. I would imagine it's not gonna go over 75, but I don't think we have a true picture of what we're going to spend at these facilities.
And what was the advantage of making the switch?
So the liquid chlorine is cheaper than the tablets, and it's safer.
Okay, thank you. If we can drop down to, you may, I had a question, signs, you certainly answered that, and certainly look forward to the more consistent signage throughout the park system. If we go into rec programs, the 30 account, which is on page 111. What's the movie program going to look like in 2019? Do you expect it to be about what it was in the current year and past years?
I can answer for 2018 that due to 2017 with a large number of rainouts, we did have movies that were paid for in 2017, that with the licensing company we used, we were allowed to show in 2018.
Right.
Will we be showing 10 of them? No, some of those licenses were from 2017. Is this number comparable to what we would like to do without those extra? Absolutely.
So this year we spent a little bit over $5,000. You're saying some of that was credits from prior years?
So it was also the movies we were showing. We're also taking a look at the license fee varies based on estimated attendance, popularity of the movie, when it's come out, when it hasn't. We did show some older movies. We showed Black Panther, for example, at Stevens in June. That was a higher license than some of the others. So we are taking a look at our offerings as well and being more cost effective with the licensing fees.
What you said notwithstanding, in 2015 we spent over $4,000. In 16 was well over $3,000. I think before this process is done, you might want to reevaluate that number to look to something.
Are you asking, are you mentioning, reevaluating it
I think
upwards?
you spent more money consistently. I understand the reason sometimes, but it doesn't make any sense to lowball the number, especially because in the same budget line you have porta potties.
Yeah.
And, you know, your porta potty budget between the two accounts is within $100 of what you budgeted. And I expect that, you know, at least the golf course saw a price increase, you know, on their porta potties in the middle of the year. You may get one next year as well. And I'm just gonna jump ahead to an audit that I'm gonna discuss later, but, you know, blanket POs over $4,000 need to have price agreements. And porta potty price agreement for the current year did not have a price agreement. It might have, having a price agreement might have saved you some money, especially if you unify it between the general fund, the Trexler Trust money, and the golf course. So we know the golf course porta potties went up, and I'm sure that there were some other increases in charges that we paid in the general fund. So, you know, why we all look to save money. I think part of the budget is that what we put out here in black and white should be defensible, and that the programs that we say we're going to do, we're going to do. Thank you for that. Let's drop down to the 46 in the same program. That's on page 112. This is organized sports activities. And this is the meat of a lot of what the department does. I spent a lot of time going through budget books. And The current year's budget is down to 18 items. I'm going to say that with the exception of Noche de Ritmo, the Halloween Parade, Adventure Allentown, which went to Community Economic Development, and Pest Control, which finally went to the proper 42 account. This is the exact same budget that Parks and Rec has put before council for the prior 3 years. That's 2016, 2017, and 2018. Down to the wordage, practically, if we look at item number 10, summer curriculum, environmental education, which has the $500 increase due to contractual obligation, that's been in the 3 prior budget books, and we didn't get a $500 increase in any of those years. So, you know, my fear is that this budget for programming is no longer accurate. For instance, the program number 2, the Lights On program, I can't find anything expended in count 46 on that program. Not this year, not last year. Summer staff background checks, which is item number 9. Once again, there's nothing expended for that line item in account 46. Now maybe HR is picking it up for you, then this needs to go away. To go on, winter and holiday programming, number 12. I can't find anything in this account that shows that we spent money on that. The Light Trail Club, I know we have the stations throughout the parks. That's item number 14, $350. I can't find it this year or last year. Therapeutic Recreation 16, I can't find anything to justify that program expense. Sports Academy, item number 17, once again, I can't find anything. That's over $18,000 in the budget we programmed for, but we don't provide, that we didn't provide in the last year, maybe even prior years. Are we running a youth baseball program? That would be item number 4.
I can speak on that. We've been working with the local high school baseball teams, along with the youth organizations. We don't specifically oversee the baseball programs within the city, but we do help out and advertise and market for existing Little League programs from the organizations.
Thank you, and we all know that baseball could use some help. Once again, I can't find any expenditures for that $2,000 in the 46 account, not this year, not last year. Which brings us to basketball, which we all know is big in Allentown, and my gosh, Cedar Beach is quite the draw, and I'm sure other playgrounds as well. And also, we have a great winter basketball program, which keeps kids off the streets. You know, we budget $41,000 for that, but that's not what we spend on it. In 2017, for the whole year, we spent $75,000 on something we budgeted $41,000 for. In 2018, year to date, and we still have, you know, November and December to go, we spent $66,000. So there's a disconnect between what we put in this book every year and what we actually do. You know, Easy Pass facility, pretty much right on the money. Arts Park programming, pretty close. Summer playground 20 park tickets, depends on how many kids go. We had 420 last year. It cost, you know, $9,000 and some dollars. Midnight basketball, contract solutions, right on the money. I imagine that contract will be up for renegotiation one of these days. The summer concert series, I don't know about you, but I love to see the Royal Airs, they rock. Movies in the Park preview DVD, there's another thing we didn't do this year. We've done it prior years, didn't do it this year. Summer playground programming is $5,000 there. I can't find anything in this account this year or last year that justifies that line. And busing, we spend about $12,000, almost $13,000 on to take our kids to various things. Mr. McLean, this is your call. I think Parks ought to resubmit this as to what they are going to do and what it's going to cost.
I kind of agree with you, Mr. Mayor. I think if you could update that for us, we'd appreciate it.
Tell me what you want resubmitted.
Well, the 46 account needs to be brought, you know,
Page 111, 112.
yeah. I would add one or two more things, not to pile on, but.
Keep piling on.
You know, when I did that audit in June or July, and I mentioned a couple of things. One is that we need to budget for things we spend money on every year. And two is we need to stop budgeting for things that we don't spend money on every year.
I think we could agree.
And I thought those were entirely reasonable suggestions. In that category, the city spends music licensing, has to spend money on music licensing fees every year. This year is over $4,100. It's not budgeted, it's never been budgeted. If it's not gonna be budgeted in Parks and Rec, then it needs to be a general and civic expense. Or if Mr. Leitner's here, put it over in special events, but it needs to be someplace. Along the same lines, this account paid for the alarm system at Bucky Boyle. I don't know why, but you did. If that service is going to continue to be provided, then it's gotta be someplace, because it's not. So this account, you know, I think needs to come back to you guys, so.
Well, Mike, I agree with you, and I appreciate your work on that, because you have some figures and some contract at your fingers that we don't always have. Is there any way you can send that memo to Mr. Hanlon? He can forward it to us?
I just have the questions here, but once again, you know, what I'm really telling you tonight is repeated from the audit from this summer. We can sit down, as I said, I apologized earlier that we would have gotten these questions in advance, but with the budget's not coming out till Friday night, and this is Wednesday, and the other work intervening, and I'm sorry I didn't have that opportunity.
Well, Mr. Treasurer, we'll take care of account 46, good suggestion.
Not quite done yet, though.
Well, go ahead.
If we can go into aquatics for a little bit. Really, you know, just, you know, the printing budget's going up, so once again, you're gonna do more signage at the pools, is that fair to, okay? Because last year we spent nothing, this year you wanna spend $3,500. Consistent signage is a good thing. In account 68, which is where the concession stand inventory is. You know, Cedar has a concession stand, Mac has a concession stand, Jordan has a concession stand.
Well, Mac is not functional.
But is it hoped to be was it functional this year?
No.
Okay,
Because of the roof.
got you, but it hopes to be functional next year.
Yes.
Here's something you need to help me make sense of this. You want to raise your revenue estimate to $300,000, and hopefully the weather will cooperate, and we'll have great weather, and the public can use the pools and bring in a lot of revenue. My presumption is that when people are at the pools, they spend money on concessions. Is that reasonable?
Yes.
Okay. This year, we spent 19 grand on concessions. For next year, you're only budgeting 12.5. So, to me, there's a disconnect there. So I think it makes sense to take a look at that as well. If we can skip to the Trexler Trust. Rentals, which is on page 190. You know, I mentioned about porta potties. I think you guys are budgeting really tight there. A and B, you need a price agreement with your vendor, which would be a good thing. Maybe you can bargain for a little bit better price than you've been getting. Equipment rentals, budgeting $7,000. This year, we spent a little bit over $1,000 in Trexler Trust on equipment rentals. Can you give us some ideas about what kind of projects you're gonna be taking on that will necessitate the additional expense?
Yes, Jeff, so last year we were planning to possibly remove the sandbar down at Eden Terrace Park. That required purchase of an excavator that the city does not own.
Yeah.
That didn't happen because of the weather this year. We are hoping to do that again this year. We also have that money in there for any projects that come up that we do not have the equipment for. And we, obviously, we don't need that equipment, but we purchase it. We do have some upcoming projects like for example, the bathhouse renovations at Cedar Pool, where we purchase small equipment to get in the pool, core drills and things like that, versus purchasing $100,000 pieces we rented. Some of those projects happen, some of them don't because of the weather or whatever else pops up. So yes, we didn't get certain things this year. We hope to do more next year.
Thank you, Ms. Phillips. Down to 42. Which is, it starts on 190 and goes to 191. You have fleet repairs there, and my question is, that's for, accidents or something, or things, I guess below the deductible.
Correct.
Is the amount of money that you budgeted there for Parks and Rec as a whole, both
Yes.
Trexler Trust and general funds?
That's correct.
Okay, what about golf course?
No, that's not paid for.
Okay, because they don't have a line item for that. I don't necessarily know that they do, but
They don't have any accidents.
you should all be so lucky. Also, next topic down, 46. We have stone and masonry work on item number 1, and then stone and masonry again for a total of 28. 1 and 5 seem to be the same.
They are the same, that should have been corrected.
Did that last year too, and it slipped by me. I didn't want to let it go this year.
No, we actually pointed that out, it just never got corrected.
Okay, what kind of projects, this year you guys did a tremendous job on the walking bridge at Trexler Park. That looks like $1 million.
Thank you.
What do you expect, what projects do you think you're gonna do this coming year?
Again, we plan on working on the Lehigh Parkway wall from where we finished off when the wall collapsed. So that would be the staircase down towards Rockland Bridge, as much as we can do there. And then also some smaller projects throughout the park system. For example, there's a wall in Cedar Beach that comes off of Parkway Boulevard.
Right, that's pretty bad again.
Right. And there's also just various small projects throughout the parks that we would like to work on that aren't in the capital, if you will, project.
Well, money, I gather, is in general and civic. It's the project 2202 for WPA structure renovations. And I guess the next question is, how does the money you have in Trexler Trust going to dovetail with will dovetail with what you're going to do there? Or hasn't that been determined yet?
I don't think it's been determined yet. I believe they will dovetail at some point potentially. Again, it all depends on the cost of the project. So we have Parkway Wall staircase, for example, and that wall leading down in probably in excess of $200,000 of entire repair. So the money that's in the capital expense, if we need to use this money also, that would go with that project. So they may dovetail, or this money may be used for smaller projects that aren't part of the capital project.
Thank you. Continuing onward, also in the 46 account, but not in the budget, but in the expenses, you paid for, or the parks paid for cell phone service at the dog park for a couple months. Is that going to be an ongoing expense?
Yes, it is, and it needs to be added.
Okay, phone service should be added to account 22. Also, we paid for alarm service at the fish hatchery out of this account. Is that an ongoing thing?
Yes, it is.
If we could add that. In 2018, Trexler Fund out of the 72, which is the equipment account, paid for a Super 600 turf sweeper for the golf course. And my question is,
No, that's ours. It's a Wiedemann sweeper. We have it.
yeah.
It's
Was
at
it,
Drexler Park right now.
okay, wasn't it for the golf course?
No,
Okay.
again, I think to point out,
Yeah.
across the entire city, Public Works, Parks, we all use each other's equipment when necessary. That purchase was made for the parks. It's
Okay.
actually being used in Drexler Park as we speak. Not right now, but today it was used.
Got it. Thank you. Sometimes the invoices only tell you so much, I appreciate that. If we can go to golf, which is 233. In 2018, the golf course paid Fine Golf Design for some consulting. My understanding is it had to do with maintenance. The money was paid in 2018. And I don't know where this fits in with your future plans in terms of evaluating the golf course, but I'd like to know if you can give us an idea how that $3,500 we spent on that consultant has informed our budget for the current year. What are we going to do differently?
So that's getting into our overall master plan for the golf course. We had them come in and look at different aspects for the design intent, how the golf course has changed over the past 20 years just as aging, trying to get it back to its structural form. We should be done with them this year.
Does that mean that there's additional bills?
No additional cost to them.
To us?
To us.
Got it, okay. Thank you very much. In terms of golf administration, I noticed, which begins on 236, the 42 account, or 237, I'm sorry, and the 42 account, range cart repairs, are those golf cart repairs?
Yes, driving
Okay.
range cart does have issues each year, but by running it so much on the, it's about a 10-year-old piece of equipment, so it generally needs some replacement of either brakes or front end.
It might be semantics, but, in the past, that was on grounds maintenance, where most of the other maintenance costs are. It's a little surprising to see it move. Dropping down to 46, the Yamaha golf cart lease. In the chart of accounts, this is a lease. It should be expensed to an account 30, like all the other leases in the city. Service electric internet on the new chart of accounts, which is item 3 there, should be at 22. Right, Mr. Hartzell? This year, the golf course had Cintas come out and provide, mats and deodorizers. Are we going to use that as them or a service like them next year?
We'll use Cintas, but the mats, we've decided to do a in-house mat.
We're going to purchase the mats.
Yes.
Okay. Fair enough. I don't know what. So, do you have any idea what the part you're going to use Cintas for is going to cost? And I just say that because it's not budgeted anyplace. So when you figure that out, are we going to use a tent in 2019?
No.
Oh, that's good news. Well, and we invested a fair amount of money in the pavilion out there. So it'll be nice to recoup that. And I've walked through it once or twice, and it looks like a great facility. We advertised with the Steelhawks in 18. You're going to continue to do that in 2019?
Yes. The planning on it. It depends on whether we have to look at our marketing idea.
If we look at account 50, which is 238, the new item there is sales tax and credit card charges for $27,000. And I have to commend the golf course for recognizing those charges and fees, because they were never done so in the past. So that's certainly a good step toward transparency, and I think the number's really pretty accurate too. The real estate tax number is a little bit high. The tax is probably around $5,300. Mr. Hartzell says no. There's 2 taxes, Parkland School District and Lehigh County. Lehigh County's not changing. Apparently we'll talk later, okay. the last item, and this has to do with a Pro Shop inventory item. Pro Shop purchased something this year called Western PA Golf Association. And it was expense to the 70 account. Can you tell us, Mr. Rombold, what that is and how it fits into the, to an inventory account?
Yes, we're in the Western, we're basically a member of Western Pennsylvania Golf Association. They provide a service, which is a service to provide USGA handicaps to individuals. So that individual service, they charge us per person, which is $17 a person.
For active raw student.
We charge the customers at Allentown $20 for that service.
Okay, so how many memberships did you buy? How many, what was the retention?
They had 176, I think, was our total sales. So we had to pay for 176 times 17, and we got 176 times 20 back from the customers.
So when you do this, are we getting this inventory retrospectively or prospectively?
Well, it's a bill. We collect money from the patrons, and then we import them into the software of the system. The software of the system, they look at it and say, okay, this is how many people you've added in, and this is your bill. And they usually bill us in the middle of July, somewhere around there.
I got it, okay. Very
And
good.
this year, it's the same scenario.
For
We
19.
may go, I'm looking into, we may be able to get it for $15 down at Philly PGA, but we're also increasing the rates to $25 to do it. So we're gonna make a little more money down there.
And you're gonna run it through the 70 account again?
Correct.
Okay, well, it's.
Yeah, exactly, through 70 account. Correct.
You know, and I don't mean to harp on this, but I will. You list Callaway, Titleist FootJoy, and Cowboy Apparel, but we don't list the Western PA Golf Association. If we're making money on it, and if it goes in inventory, it should be listed there. Thank you very much, I appreciate it. Mr. President, thank you for your indulgence.
Mr. Glazer, very informative, and thank you very much for your diligence.
Can I just make a comment? And I think, I really truly appreciate what you just did. This is the first time I see any city controller do exactly what you just did. And I tell you, that's what we need. And I've been pushed by some constituents that we need to do a department forensic audit. This is exactly what we need to do for all the departments. I hope you do the same thing for the other departments as you did today.
Well, I'll tell you, Mr. Garidi, that when I did the report that came out in June or July, it took me 4 months to do that. I banged out Parks and Rec,
Well,
you know, on Tuesday and Wednesday. So,
You don't have to do it all at once, but
well,
I think.
I will do something similar to this for the other budget hearings. Every department's different. So, you know, there's clearly some issues here, there may be in some other departments, there may not be.
Well, you know, they think this is not a very big department in regards to budget-wise, compared to, let's say, community economic development, or police department, for example. But I think what you just did is exactly what we need to do all the time at every budget hearing. And if we prepare, you know, we may not be able to accomplish, and you're saving money in a book that probably they may not, you know, we may not have seen, because we're not here like you are, obviously. We get this big budget book, and we kind of try to decipher it as much as we can in the short time we have. But since you're here a lot longer.
I took mine home this weekend.
Yeah, well, you have that luxury, thank God.
Well, and I think one of the most important things is Mr. Glazer's making sure that the items go in the proper account for proper.
Yes,
I think that's very important.
That is
So,
important.
okay.
And if we can save, if we can find like $18,000 here, $18,000 there.
Well, absolutely.
At the end, we can, anyway, I'm not blaming anybody, obviously. It's just things that happen sometimes. I mean, when we are budgeting, you know, $10,000 for something every year that is not being used, it's an issue. So you find it.
Well, sometimes it's being used, but it's not being used on whatever department says it is. And my contention is that when you guys go through the budget and the public sees the budget, you're not only approving a dollar amount, you're approving what the department's gonna use that money for, and that should be as accurate as possible. Once again, we understand that things change, things come up in the year, but
Then don't, I mean, I'm trying to give you a compliment, by the way. Don't get me-
Thank you, Mr. Greedy, I appreciate it.
We heard it loud and clear.
Good, good.
Thank you, sir.
That's all,
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Blazer. And Mr. Mayor, you'll take care of that. And just one other thing on the future, and again, not picking on the new person here. Any PowerPoint presentations or handouts we get, can we have them numbered so that when we refer to the document, they can all be numbered? Thank you. Okay, Mr. Hamlin, Bill 83.
Bill 83 is an amendment to the Parks and Recreation fees by increasing certain fees.
All right, thank you very much. Just turning that over to the administration. Good.
Yeah, President, just switching chairs here. Ryan will discuss that ability great.
Hey, I have a point of order.
Yeah, he's gonna.
I have a point of order. Can I talk on that?
Not yet, no. If you follow the agenda, we're gonna do everything and then open it up.
You're gonna do everything and then come back?
We're gonna do Bill 83 is the only other thing besides budget, and then we're opening it up for public input. It's right there, following the agenda. Sir.
A lot of
I
stuff.
hate- I hate to do that, but I'm gonna.
Yeah, I made that mistake. You shouldn't really do it, but go ahead.
Now we're at the administration with Bill 83.
Bill 83? So, Bill 83 encompasses all the recreation fees across the board, including the golf course as well. So I'm gonna speak specifically to recreation and aquatics, and then we'll have others speak to the other changes in this ordinance. A couple of the things we're looking to do.
Just before you do, I mean, I really don't want you to go over each and every increase and whatnot.
Okay.
That's self-explanatory on it. But if there's some sort of justification for it, like my question would be the golf fees are increasing. How is that comparing to other golf courses around the area? I mean, are we, by increasing this, are we pricing ourselves out of rounds or not?
Yeah, we're gonna still remain very competitive in the pricing of other golf courses in the area. We're moving up to $53 to ride on the weekend. That's a $3 increase, and most of the other golf courses in the area are anywhere between $55 and $60 to ride 18 holes on the weekend. We do have fees breaking down at noon and different time zones, but all the fees that we are increasing we're still remaining very competitive. We just need to do it, of course, to increase our revenue to take care of our added expenses that have increased just over time. Chemicals and other items that we have to spend, or of course, everything else are increasing.
Okay, while we have you there, from my colleagues, is there anybody else that has a question on the golf fees?
I'm sorry, we're just reading this, we're gonna be introducing it later.
Yeah, this will be
It will be an introduction.
Yeah, so I haven't had a chance to look at it and understand.
Okay. We can go over the questions later. Right.
Okay, good.
Just,
An introduction.
right.
All right.
Okay, seeing nobody else on the golf course. When we go, I have a question on the pools then, so. I see that there's no youth price anymore. It goes from 2 to 59. There's one price.
When we look at a lot of our daily attendance at actually occurring at the pools, we see a large number of youth versus adults. So we went with, typically it's about 80% youth to 20% adults in our wristband inventory that comes in. We're looking to standardize and streamline that process to one price for those age range.
Okay, I'm following you. I'm not sure, but we'll have time to go over that. Non-resident family season pass for the pools. Additional individual, same way with the resident family, additional individual. What would constitute an additional individual into a family pass?
What we're seeing a lot of is a grandparent or somebody else who would come with the children versus an additional child to the family. So we're changing the wording from restricting to just children to, let's say, two-parent family and 2 kids want to buy a pass, but they want to be able to have grandma on the family pass as well, because she's going to be bringing the grandkids. We want to allow for that. That came up a little bit this past season.
Okay, just throwing out hypotheticals here. What about a babysitter?
The way our season pass form is worded is all individuals, we would have to adjust that to account for that item.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else on the pools? And I know we're gonna go over this, but I didn't want to forget the question.
Can I ask that question I asked before?
I don't remember the question you had before, but you go for it.
The one about, the Cedar Beach, it was residents only weekend, is that staying that rec? I'm looking
We did take it off because we did a great job this year. When we brought this to you last year, we implemented electronic residency verification for resident versus non-resident, which allowed us to track how crowded the pools were, how many people we were turning away that were non-residents on the weekends, where we were hitting capacity, where we were with our tracking of numbers. We were finding that we were not reaching it to a point where residents were not able to come to the pool due to the number of non-residents. So because we were afraid of what Palmer Township had done 2 years ago, where they didn't account for that, they were having that problem. We in practice did not have that last year. We feel we can open it up to residents and non-residents alike at separate rates and not get into that issue.
The reason I ask that is because I have a lot, not a few, but a lot of people that like the idea that they're the taxpayers and spend so much money on Cedar Beach Pool. They like the idea that they don't have to stand in line weekends, that they can have this pool weekends. There were, a lot of them were in favor, they liked it, they were in favor of it. So I don't know if changing that would make a difference, because I know the Allentown residents like the idea of having Cedar Beach Pool that they pay taxes for, that they're not standing in line and can't get in.
In regards to the line issue specifically at Cedar, this past summer was a learning process with the electronic residency verification. I feel we've done a great job at learning throughout the summer to negate those lines. A couple times when we did reach our 900 to about 1,000 people throughout the day, we had a second line, we had a second computer available to speed that up and work through that. So as far as the logistics of that, we are improving to make that better.
And so obviously with the other pools open, that would
Correct.
also. Okay, if I get any complaints, I'll come back to you.
Okay. All right. Who's that bill going to? Parks and Rec, Mr. Hanlon, correct?
Yeah.
That we going to this vote as well?
Yes.
Great. All right, thank you very much. All right, now we're gonna open up to discussion on the Parks and Rec budget. We're still in the budget here. Mr. Hunsaker.
Okay.
Sorry to keep you waiting.
There's always one there. You were hoping. First, I want to thank Mr. Frazier. He really did a good job. And like you were saying, Mr. Greedy, this is the time of thing when we were advocating that you do for all departments throughout the year. And actually, you should do this before the end of, or the 1st of September, in our opinion. That's really what you should do. And maybe you should have it just for one night for one department, not try to maybe force it into an extra special regular meeting night. My question is about capital projects, which I've been looking into here. And one of the questions is, I know we just got the book on the 5-year plan. I was looking in relationship, I'm really looking between the 5-year plan and what we call the active capital fund summary for Parks and Rec. Is there a reason why the active projects under Park and Rec are not covered in the 5-year plan? Is there a reason why that they're not in there? Some of them, not all of them. How do we explain that?
I will have to go back through the entirety of the 5-year plan to determine if indeed that is the case. The 5-year plan of the capital was, in its form, intended to be a list of showing what the department heads feel is necessary to carry out their projects over the course of the next 5 years. And of course, a lot of that is simply not going to be funded because it's not a wish, it's a necessity, but there's not the money to be able to cover it.
Okay.
There should not, no, I will finish, and then you can go ahead and say it. There should not be a disconnect between that and the items that are showing up as individual projects. And before I jump to concluding whether that is true or not, I am going to go back and look at it and see if indeed there is that disconnect. And if so, we'll get it fixed. I need to be clear about it between those two before I can say either way.
Okay, I understand what you're saying, and I appreciate you. We should really sit down, because there's more than just one here. There's a whole list of things that we should talk about, maybe offline or something like that.
That would be fine.
I'd like to straighten this up, so I understand how this works. And the other thing which I was talking about was the capital funds in the golf course. I see they want to put buildings. Would that be an expenditure, that building, if you did it this year, or is it going to be a capital project, or what, the 27,000? Would that be a capital project? Because I don't see anything in here.
You are correct, and I believe the answer was they don't have the funds in the current budget.
Okay, there's nothing here for 19 and 20 in the 5-year plan, so I just, okay, that's all very fine. The other thing was, I think what I should do is really get with you offline about these capital projects, because there's a lot of questions on even the closeout projects. There's been places where you close out a project, but you have it in the 5-year plan. So I don't know how that happened. I mean, and you change the name or the numbers and the names of the projects. So I mean, there's a few items in here, and I've been going through this in detail, so we'll get with you, and maybe I'll learn something on how you do this. Okay?
Look forward to it.
Was there anything else while my time is still up there? Okay.
Go ahead.
Nah,
You have another question?
nah. My name is Joe Tonic. I was in front of this board 3 times this spring on the issues of being in the parkway to go fishing. I don't know if you remember me or not.
I do, but is your question on the budget?
Yes, I'd like to know what page of the budget reflects the cost of the rangers and enforcement. Can you tell me what page it's on?
I saw it, but I know what page.
I don't have a copy of it, so.
Temporary wages.
Temporary wages.
It's part of the recreation temporary wage.
And the reason why I asked that is because there was no enforcement. I was in that parkway over 40 times and did not see one ranger. Do you have a ranger on your budget?
We have a job position.
The answer is yes.
Yes. Okay, is it just one ranger, or is it 3 rangers, is it 5 rangers, what is it? We got a bunch of parks.
It varies based on, it's a line item amount for what we go throughout the parks, varies by season. There are also rangers that, not just outside in the parks, it's also rangers available at basketball games and tournaments and things like that we offer, so it's a wide range of job
So
descriptions.
you look at the schedule and then decide from there where you need to assign a ranger. So there may not be one just patrolling Lehigh Park.
Correct.
Okay, I was really profoundly upset when I opened up the morning call. You guys made a rule that you can't go swimming in the parks. You guys made a whole bunch of rules, spent a whole bunch of money, and a whole bunch of time coming up with these rules. No fires, no cutting of the grass, no tents, no swimming, yet that continued all summer long.
There's also police enforcement as part of the budget.
Police didn't do
that-
anything.
I don't know that that's true or not, because there's a lot of tickets issued throughout the course of the season. And I don't believe we have that information in front of us right now, but I know they were issuing many sweep tickets throughout this year, and I believe they've been doing much better. Now, I don't know exactly what they're enforcing, but they are working, they are budgeted, and we have rangers, and we have police patrol, specific to Lehigh Parkway, on bicycles.
Right.
Okay, I've never seen them.
I'm still trying to figure out how you're referring this to the budget, Mr.
Because
Thomas,
I-
okay? It seems like you have a complaint that might be open for courtesy of the floor, but right now we're discussing
I
the,
asked what page,
Park budget.
and if there was.
and you were given that answer, and then you start complaining about no enforcement and the rules that were set.
But that's the truth.
There's another session for.
Right, but that's
another
not-
session.
Okay.
We're gonna have another meeting.
Okay.
I'm on the east side of Allentown. The EPA squabble with the golf course, can we have an update?
the EPA squabble, do you have it listed that way, or how that listed?
Not necessarily. We are working with the EPA, so we're calling a meeting of EPA individuals as well as the golf course to sit down and Public Works to sit down and iron out the issues to ensure everything moves forward smoothly.
We're not there yet.
Right.
To issue any comments on that, we're still working on it.
Okay, do we have a time frame when that meeting might take place?
It's been requested. As of last week, it was requested and we're waiting for a response.
Okay.
Is there a cost involved in that?
Other than the personnel, the parks personnel that are gonna be being paid while they're at the meeting, right? Correct?
He's talking about something else, that'll be part of the report.
Correct.
I know what he's talking about, that'll be part of the report.
Okay. Anybody else for courtesy of the floor on the Parks and Recreation budget? Seeing nobody, we will close this meeting and we're gonna go right to the resolutions for final passage. Mr. Hanlon. R-122.
Okay, R1. R122 is an authorization for engagement of professional services with base engineering not to exceed $2,100 to evaluate work needed at 1602 Park Drive for future renovations for adult occupants. A single port.
Okay, I'll turn it over to the administration. Article 122.
This is for additional engineering services and a comprehensive survey for 1602 Park Drive. Only one quote was necessary for this due to the price of it falling under our one quote threshold. It is with Base Engineering, who we have done a lot of work with in the past.
Okay, thank you very much. And can we keep the conversation down in the back, please? Thank you. I know I always ask this question, but we have the money budgeted somewhere for this?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Anything from my colleagues? Mr. Henderson.
Is this for the log home at Robin Hood?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Glazer. Thank you.
Anybody else from council? Seeing nobody. Anybody from the public? Seeing nobody. Mr. Hanlon?
Ms. Napa.
Yes.
Mr. Green.
Yes.
Mr. Hendrick.
Yes.
Ms. Moda.
Yes.
Mr. Lupo.
Yes.
Mr. Blaine.
Yes.
Mr. President,
Thank you very much. R123, please.
R123 is an authorization for a contract with Armour and Sons Electric for $159,235 to replace existing high-pressure sodium luminaries with LED luminaires on various existing poles and Abbott farms throughout the city. And this thing was competitively bid.
Thank you very much. Administration?
This was done as bid 2018-22. It was advertised on public purchase. It was accessed by 19 vendors. We received one response from Armour and Sons Electric. The contractor has done work for the city in the past and has done similar services for other municipalities around the area.
Thank you very much. I think I remember hearing the name, and again, we have the money budgeted for this. Thank you very much. Anything from my colleagues? Seeing nobody. Anything from the public on R123? Seeing nobody. Mr. Hanlon?
Mr. Greedy.
Yes.
Mr. Hendricks.
Yes.
Ms. Moda.
Yes.
Mr. Zuko.
Yes.
Mr. Blaine.
Yes.
Ms. Napa.
Yes.
Thank you very much. R124, please.
R124 is an authorization for engagement of professional services with Base Engineering in the amount of $13,200 for additional engineering assessment of properties at 820, 821T, and I have 822 and 824 North Fifth Street related to the sinkhole attack.
Thank you very much. Administration?
This is for additional engineering services, in addition to services that were approved at the May 2nd City Council meeting. There were not additional quotes obtained for this because they were obtained with the first time that the quotes were received for the service. The first time that it went out and was approved back in May, we did receive 3 quotes for the service. This is for additional service, so the vendor already had that unique knowledge of doing it with part of the first project, so it wasn't something that was beneficial to go out and get quotes for the second time. It still fell within the scope of work of the first original quotes that went out, and it still fell within the 3 quote guidelines, so we're still in that same process.
Okay, thank you very much. And obviously, we don't have an account to plan for sinkholes in budget every year, but so where would this money be coming from?
It is coming from general fund, 46 account general fund.
Okay, thank you very much.
Quick question.
Mr. Green?
Thank you. So whose properties are these? Are they private properties? Are they our properties? What are we paying for?
They are properties that are blighted properties that have been vacant for the last 10 years. So we're right now trying to take it through the blight process and determine what we're gonna do, the disposition of properties. So some are bank owned, most are bank owned.
But we acquire them.
We haven't acquired them yet, but we're in the process. We don't wanna acquire something until we know what the outcome is gonna be with them.
Okay.
Which is why we're asking for this report.
Okay, so then you ask the reimbursement of the owners or you?
Once we determine what the engineer report states, you know, if there were saving, salvaging, then we will go through the process of acquiring them. If they're not, we will go through the demolition process. The sinkholes, you don't have a lot of choices.
Yeah, but you only asking 13,000.
Right, that's for the final, that's the final report of the engineer, the final report of the engineer.
Okay, so you'll come back to us then?
Yes.
Yes, all right, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Green. Anybody else from council? Mr. Glazer?
Which bureau, I assume this is coming from a CED 46 account?
That's correct.
Which bureau, sir?
Building standards and safety.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Glazer. Anybody else from council? Anybody from the public? Mr. Hanlon? R124.
Ms. Mona?
Yes.
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 Thank you very much. R125, please.
R125 is an authorization for a contract with Elliott Lewis Corporation in the amount of $75,365 to install a steam boiler for the fire station.
This was done as bid 2018-25. It was advertised on public purchase. 21 vendors accessed the bid. We did have 4 vendors attend the pre-bid meeting. 1 response was received from the proposed vendor who an evaluation was done of the price, and it was determined to be fair market value price for the work that's being done.
Thank you very much. Anything from council? Anybody from the public? Mr. Hanlon?
Ms. Mona?
Yes.
Mr. Zuko?
Yes.
Mr. McLean?
Yes.
Napa?
Yes.
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 Thank you very much. All right, we're adjourning the contract meeting. Council's going to take a 5-minute break, and then we'll start with our council meeting.